Hello, we are Three Humans Productions, and we're here to pitch our single scene production of Death of a Salesman, written by Arthur Miller. First, as the director, I will discuss our tagline and metaphorical statements, our scene, the reason we chose it, and the vision and history behind it, as well as our purpose for pitching it to college students. I will then give time to the costume designer for more details involving costumes, and then to the set designer for her portion. We chose the tagline, "The Cost of the American Dream," because it encapsulates what we believe to be the moral question asked in the piece. Is the American dream really what we imagine it to be? Our metaphorical statement is as such. Death of a Salesman is a facade of the American dream, showing the harsh truth versus idealistic life. The Lohman family is glass, firm together but can easily shatter from their differences. These sentences bring a deeper understanding of the play and some clarity to the central meaning. At its core, Death of a Salesman is a story about a family trying to overcome their differences and cope with the actions of one another. This play is perfect for college students because many can relate to family dysfunction. Since they have started living away from home, this time in their lives is a great opportunity to process family relations. They now have space from their parents and the ability to think and act for themselves. This play will allow these students to think introspectively and overcome their mental battles with their parents and siblings. The scene our team chose from the play is when Biff finally confronts his father, Willie, about his wrongdoings. We decided on this because we feel it is the emotional climax of the piece. Biff finally resolves his emotions about his dad, and Willie finds closure, though he is still delusional. This scene teaches the important lesson of communicating your feelings. Usually, and in the case of this scene, it is quite ugly because they are digging up emotional baggage that has been building up for years. This section can teach these students the dangers of sweeping things under the rug. You will see through my other team members the historical context of the play and the great artistic choices chosen because of it. Arthur wrote the play in 1949, which was a very pivotal time in America. World War II had just ended, meaning the country was rebuilding. Also, due to the war, the US was in a recession. Many people were without funds for tending to their homes or tending to basic necessities. We have done a great job of creating this type of atmosphere and have made many small, intricate choices to bring that to life. I'll now turn the time over to Sarah to explain her portion.
My name is Sierra Evans, and I was in charge of the costume design for our project. I think it would be best to go over the popular styles for men and women in America in the late 1940s to get a good idea of what I'll be discussing in terms of the costumes for each character. For men, the popular style was something called a suit, which is characterized by a high waist, long coat, wide legs, and padded shoulders. These suits were often paired with a fedora, which was a type of hat that had a wide brim and was usually made of soft felt material. I decided to give the men in this scene different variations of a zoot suit, which reflects aspects of their character. The popular style for women was something called the New Look, which was popularized when Dior released a new line of women's clothing in February of 1947. The dress style featured a long skirt with tight fitting, round shoulders, a cinched waist, and a jacket over top of the dress. The pleating on the skirts required a lot of fabric, which showed a stark contrast from the focus on using less fabric during the early 1940s. Oxfords were the shoe of choice in the late 1940s for both men and women. The sound but some leather and usually a brother. For Willie Loman, I decided on a full zoot suit complete with a jacket, tie, suspenders, and Oxford shoes. I chose this because Willie is a person who very much values appearances over everything else. Because of this, he would be in a full suit whenever he could, never wanting to be caught and not looking his best. However, Willie has been having a mental decline, as we see throughout the play, and the scene we chose starts with him talking to his deceased brother, who is a figment of his imagination. To showcase how his mental state has degraded and the effect it is having on him, I decided not to have him wear a hat. I think this reflects that there is something not quite right with him, though he tries to act as though everything is normal. As for the quality of his suit and shoes, I would have him a bit worn to show the audience that he is clearly in need of a new suit and a pair of shoes. This is meant to reflect the financial state of the Loman family, who have had a fall from grace of sorts. The script seems to imply that the family once had good money, so they had the nicest clothes and accessories at one point. However, Willie's sales had been on the decline for a while, meaning that they likely did not have money to afford to replace the old with the new, leading to a wardrobe that is very worn. As for the color for Willie's suit, I chose a deep blue color to show the underlying sadness as he is choosing to end his own life to give his family his life insurance money. There's also the sadness he feels at having not accomplished what he wanted in his life. He was never as successful as his brother, and that realization was a hurtful one. I also wanted Willie to have a contrasting color to Biff to show their rift and how, especially in this scene, Willie has given up on life while Biff has found a new purpose to keep him going. Biff's costume, I wanted to have the least formal of all the men in the scene. His costume consists of just a loose dress shirt, pants, a belt, and Oxford shoes. I think this reflects Biff's mental state and how he is tired of trying to live up to his father's expectations when it is not what he wants out of life. Biff's desire to be and away from the business world is mirrored in how he wears his attire. It also aligns with the conflict he has with his father in this scene, where he finally breaks down and cries at his father about how he cannot be the person he wants him to be, and that he gives up on trying to be that person. Biff is wearing a white dress shirt and maroon pants. Red symbolizes passion and energy, both of which Biff has. He has a renewed passion for life and wanting to find a job in the countryside and be in nature, and he brings the energy to this scene that drives the argument between him and Willie. Biff and Willie's colors contrast each other like I described, which further emphasizes how different they are and that their ideologies when it comes to life and what is the right way to live. Happy's costume, I wanted to be similar to Willie's to show how much he admires his father and wants to be exactly like him. However, Happy is much more laid back and carefree than Willie is, which I wanted to show in his costume. So I decided to have Happy in an almost full zoot suit, but without a jacket, and he has his sleeves rolled up to his forearms. I made the color of his suit a dark yellow color to show his naivety and childishness and how he believes his father is this great man and that he can be like him without much effort on his part. Yellow also represents optimism, which in Happy's case is a blind optimism. Since Ben Lomond is a figment of Willie's imagination, he would look how Willie views him as, which is this perfect figure who achieved everything that Willie himself wanted out of his own life. To show this, I put Ben in a full zoot suit, fedora included. Not only is he in a full suit, but he is also in a suit in pristine condition, showing that he is perfect in Willie's eyes. A pristine suit also shows that he was very wealthy, which is something Willie always wanted to be as well. As for the color of his costume, I have him in all white, including his hat and shoes. White symbolizes purity, wealth and luxury, enlightenment, and spirits. Linda is wearing a new look dress, complete with a jacket and stockings. I did not have her wearing a hat because she is distressed by Willie's mental state and the rift that Biff has with her husband, leaving her to appear not in the best state despite being focused on appearances like Willie. Her dress and stockings show signs of wear and tear, exemplifying the financial troubles the Loman family has been having, as well as Linda's desire to hold on to broken things beyond the point where she should. As the scene progresses and Biff and Willie have their argument, her jacket will become unbuttoned at the top as she is crying, and I imagine her clutching at her neck and upper chest area to try to soothe herself. Regarding color, I had Linda's dress and jacket be a dark orange. Orange symbolizes ignorance, a trait which Linda employs willfully. She pretends that everything is okay with her family until she cannot run away from the truth anymore. I will now turn the time over to Takiesha, who is in charge of the set design.
My name is Takiesha Keyes, and I was in charge of the set design. Looking over it, I felt like there was a lot of symbolism mixed with realism, so we're going to get into it. I'll give a little background history for the set design before we get into the details of the play. During the late 1940s, Brooklyn's architectural landscape was primarily dominated by brownstone buildings, characterized by their rich, dark sandstone facades. Many other architectural styles, such as Federal, Greek Revival, and Italianate, reflect the diverse community. The brownstone buildings became increasingly valued as some of the most sought-after housing in the city. Also prevalent during this time were apartment buildings, which were adapted from grand homes as neighborhoods evolved to accommodate larger populations and changing demographics. Many of the buildings were designed in styles that ranged from Art Deco to Colonial Revival. There were a few single-family homes, and they were often covered in wooden siding, and some had small grassy spaces either in front of their home or behind. Detached garages or carports were also rare. The set design is important because it helps to establish the locale and time period when the play takes place. Death of a Salesman occurs in the late 1940s in Brooklyn, New York. The scene we chose occurs within the Loman home, in the house, and in the garden area. Willie Loman struggled to achieve the American dream for his entire life, and not quite achieving the gold standard and living a life in the lower middle class. His family suffered financially, and their home reflects that struggle. In his early years, he was more successful, but at the end of the play, his successes have become failures, and his home in Brooklyn, New York, with its small grassy area, barely enough to call a yard, is reflective of his declining mental and material health. His tiny home, nestled between the new brick facade of brownstones, pales in comparison to the bustling economy around him. This suggests that he is surrounded by other people's successes while he struggles to meet that standard and cannot. Because Willie was never truly successful, his home reflects his lifelong struggle. There's patterned wallpaper on the walls, but the paper is aged, yellowing, and shows signs of wear. The home structure is consistent with the period and is made up of wood floors and wood paneling in some areas. There are very few decorations or embellishments in the home, again to suggest the struggle to achieve the American dream. The deterioration of the home centers around the metaphor that chasing the American dream is folly and is an outdated measure of success. The theory behind this set design is to give a sense of realism while hinting at the subtle symbolism. Willie has been a salesman his whole life, and at one point was successful enough to own his own home. However, he has endured financial hardships and repeated failures within his career. His home is depicted as older and worn, and repairs need to be made. The overall theme is hardship, and the walls and furniture of the home are realistic with the subtle messages of a lifestyle coming to an end. Within the set, we built a wooden house frame with 2 stories and covered it with period-appropriate wallpaper. Simple wooden furniture was incorporated, and a small sofa with synthetically bended fabric was used for the family's living space. We chose a proscenium stage because it fit the style of the play and made it easier for sequence throughout, as provided the best view for the events. While we didn't have a lighting manager, we decided for the scene that the soft blue and low white lights would be best and communicate that it was evening, and the subtle message was the feeling of sadness and melancholy. The lighting suggests that the brightness of day, the budding of the dream Willie pursued, is now dying, and that the time to salvage things is coming to a close. For the cyclorama, we decided to project Brooklyn's brownstones to suggest the surroundings of the Loman home. On stage left and right, curtains and drapes are used to allow actors to enter and exit the stage. I have a video showcasing this set via scale model, which will now be played. Okay, here we have the Loman home, which this is a physical model of the set instead of a drawing. As you can see, aspects of the home would be actors can enter through this door, which is the main living space for the Loman family. Kitchen, sitting area, very simple furniture and furnishings. As you can see with the walls, here suggesting wear and tear on the home, very little decor. This would be a movable staircase so that the actors can get upstairs, as Willie's two sons have several discussions in the upstairs bedroom. Again, the set shows wear and tear, as the family has lived in this home for a while and has not been able to afford to make any adjustments or replacements. And then back here would be our cyclorama, which is the projection of the Brooklyn skyline of brownstone buildings, which would be set behind our physical set of the Loman home. And as I said before, the stairs can move and are removable so that they're not going to always be in the way and used. And for the scene that we are doing, we have chosen to have part of the scene be outdoors. So we would have a flat here. The flat on one side depicts an inside of the home. It matches the other door. Again, wear and tear. But this would be considered the back door. And because it's not a space that's used throughout the play consistently, it is specifically used for this one scene, we wanted to have a movable wall. And this would be the exterior. Again, very simple siding, not brick facades, but wood siding. And then we have the garden here where Willie is working and planting the seeds in the hopes he will have a brighter future and to leave something behind for his posterity. So this wall suggests a different space while activity is still being held in the center area, and Willie and Biff have their conversation on this side of the flat. And that is the basic set. Of course, this doesn't include various drapes and curtains, but I liked that it gives a 3D visual of what the set would look like and how actors could use it in a real setting. And I found this furniture among my kids' toys, which I felt perfectly depicted late 1940s era. So, yeah.
Nice. Thank you for your time, and we hope you'll consider supporting our production.